think that's the first time I've ever used this.
I may leave that in.
I also,
you don't have to leave it in. That just has to be the Instagram.
I'm one-handed.
It's hard to do a
Can you give
podcast
everybody a
one-handed.
wave for us, Derek?
you can,
All right.
you can zoom in on that real
Yeah,
good.
welcome back to Vertical Plus Podcast. I guess we kind of already introduced Derek on accident. My plan was to celebrate Austin being back.
Oh, right.
Yay!
The prodigal son
Prodigal.
back in the
Has
saddle
returned.
Yeah, for 1 week.
for 1 week.
till June or something.
If I don't
or
leave, you
October,
never
I don't
miss
know.
me. So
That's true. And then Ben's here too.
Welcome.
There
Old
we
news.
go.
Yeah, welcome. No applause, please. Hold your applause till the end.
Womp womp.
And then we got our. Okay, I'm not in the game of like having favorite guests on. I would never do that.
at least not on air.
But if I did, and if I were, Derek would absolutely be top 5 in terms of just pure excitement for him being on here. If you don't know who Derek Walker is, well, we'll get into that in a second.
Most people don't. When I introduce them that way, they're like, "Who are you talking about?
Who's Derek?
Yeah.
Who's Derek?"
What do people call you?
I think people on staff say, "Who's Derek?" Because
Yeah.
they,
Yeah.
Usually the people that are uncomfortable with calling me D-Nub call me Derek. Or they're just like, it's just kind of weird. Like, why would I call you that?
So a little bit of going off in a stuff people don't know about. Joel, what does Joel call you?
Joel calls me Derek.
Okay.
Yeah.
See, that's
Joel.
what I aim for. I
Yep.
want to be close enough to Derek
who is
Yeah.
Joel?
that I call him Derek. Exactly. Leave it there. He's some Brit.
Yep. My old British roommate.
We should
they're
give
more
you the
proper in
backstory
general.
of Joel after we're done recording.
Okay.
Because we cannot
so
say
he's
it
a
publicly.
close friend who calls you Derek, but most people call you D-Nub.
Most people call me D-Nub. and
Why do
most
they
people
call you
know
D-Nub?
me by D-Nub? Well, because I have a nub.
Wait.
And
Hold on.
my name is Derek.
This is a church podcast. You can't
Yes.
talk about your nub.
Yes. You
like
you
that.
have a hand without fingers.
Yes.
Oh.
So if you view my website, it says I was born without fingers on my left hand. So been like that my whole life. And in high school, people called me Nub. I don't know where it came from, but
Was it
just-
derogatory or they liked you?
No, I think most people.
It was a term of endearment.
Yeah, it was just kind of my thing. It was
Calling
what made
card.
me unique, you know. And then college, I was at MC and did the whole Rush thing, and there were actually 2 Dereks in our Rush class.
Wait, how did
and-
you rush? I thought MC didn't have.
Social clubs.
Well,
That's
yeah,
that's a
they
whole
have-
nother episode.
Yeah, social clubs. And
Tribes are worse than sororities, and I mean it.
So
Oh, okay. So you
yeah.
rushed.
So I
Yes.
rushed, and there were 2 Dereks, and he wanted to stay Derek, and I became D-Nub. So we took Derek and added the nub to it, and D-Nub, and really the rest is history.
Speaking of history,
Yeah.
I want to get to know Derek a little bit before we dive off into the reason
like
we
a great
brought you
idea.
on. The reason bringing you on is that we like you and we want to talk to you about stuff.
Oh yeah. Okay.
All right.
Definitely a top tier guest. I think you hit that on the head.
Yeah.
We've had how many episodes now?
Oh shoot, what number is this?
Like 50 something.
A good many.
And I've been excited for this one.
This
so.
will be 53, I think.
excellent.
I would go so far as to say it was a little bit of an insult to say top 5 instead of top 3.
Well, it's okay.
It was
both
quick
of our
math.
wives were on, so we had
That's true.
That makes
That's
sense,
true.
yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I'll
Anyway.
take top 5.
So we're here to
top
learn a
5.
little bit more about Derek.
Yeah. So I just kind of wanted to ask this kind of existential question a little bit to kind of get you going.
Oh yeah.
Who is Derek Walker?
Well,
What's your middle name?
my middle name is Derek.
My middle name's Chase.
Oh boy.
So my first name is James. So James Derek Walker.
Good strong name.
A quick, just some backstory. Grew up in Madison. Been here my whole life. I've been really into art my entire life. I think the first time I did any art thing, competition, if you want to call it, was I believe 3rd grade, Madison Station. I did a drawing at the time for a Cheerios, like it was a Cheerios commercial or Cheerios ad, and I drew this guy like shooting basketball. Never played basketball, never had the desire to play basketball, but I was
Form
like,
was off a little bit.
yeah, you know, but I was like, this is what I'm going to do. And
That
I
early,
remember,
wow.
Yeah, and I remember I won first place in 3rd grade, and I distinctly remember right now, like at Madison Station, walking down like the auditorium onto the stage and like getting my medal, and it was like the coolest thing ever. And
So your first piece of art was marketing for Cheerios?
it was like this
And it won first place.
Why have they not hired you yet? That's a great story. Born to do this.
Yeah. So really that kind of started it. And then really younger years into high school was all fine art, painting, drawing, sculpting. I did all the art classes at my high school, did AP art, all of that. And then senior year is really where it kind of started to change. I knew that like I was good at art, but to make a career out of something that I could support myself and potentially a future family, I knew for me, like I wasn't good enough at art to be able to sell art and make enough. So
And this scene's hard anyway.
yeah,
Jackson scene,
and it's
I mean.
it's just it's challenging, and
It's not super appreciated here.
No, it is not.
it is.
No, it is
you
not.
know. So senior year, a cool thing happened during really the first half of the year. We did a mentorship program, and we were given a computer and a laptop. Sorry, a computer and a video camera, and we went to a younger school, and I was really instructed to show the kids how to use the computer and how to make a video. And there were about 12 of us in the class, but the neat thing about on the computer was, at the time, was Creative Suite 3. So I had access to Illustrator and Photoshop and InDesign. And when I
Adobe
was,
products.
Adobe, yeah, Adobe, all the way, Adobe. Sponsor this. So
Please.
Great, yeah. You're expensive.
We'll take it.
So that was really where I was like, okay, I can take all of my art background, everything I know about color and shape and value and all of the fine art stuff, and I can put it on the screen. And like, there's a career and a projected thing that I can do with this that I think I could make work. And all that kind of clicked all at the end of senior year, and I was like, I'm going to do graphic design. So the neat thing though about, just kind of a side note, especially with my hand, is the student that I actually had two, but one of them had I think it was cerebral palsy, and his left hand was actually very stove up to where he really only had the use of really his pointer finger. And throughout the semester, I was actually able to teach him how to type because I'd learned how to type with my hand.
Yeah.
So it's really neat to be able to teach him how to use the keyboard in a way that worked, that worked for him. So it's like I had the design side, the part where it's helping this kid learn how to type. And it was really kind of a cool year and a cool experience for me in that program.
That's very cool.
Yeah, really
It is
neat
cool.
to think that just hearing you describe it, your ability to accept limitations has been pretty important for you. Not just physical limitations, you being willing to acknowledge that early on in your life. Okay, I'm pretty good at this, but not good enough at this. That's a hurdle that a lot of people are never able to jump, and they don't end up where you've ended up in their life because you actually took the different way. That's very honorable.
Yeah, I picked up on that as well. Do you think that's a skill that you learned early because of your nub, like you said?
Yeah, I always had to, growing up, the great thing where my parents never said like there's anything wrong with you or, like you have a disability. It was something that like I knew something was different about me, but I never considered it I never considered it anything that was going to get in my way. I just had to learn how to do things differently. I think that the thing that I've always said that took me the longest to figure out was how to tie my shoes. I think I was in the 7th grade by the time
How do you tie your shoe?
I learned how to tie my shoes.
It's impressive. And actually watching you type is impressive too.
Oh,
You've got more words per minute than anybody else on staff.
And it's all.
Yeah, it's like
I learned how to type in the 6th grade, during typing class, and we had the keys that were covered up.
Oh
with, like,
yeah,
the
I
black
remember
mats and
the freaking
and the
bane of my
games.
existence in 6th grade.
ASDF.
Yeah. The teacher was like, "Do we need to give you like any special?" And I was like, "No."
You
just-
doubt me, woman?
You're like,
Yeah.
look,
Don't
I
you
can
doubt
tie
the
my
nub.
shoes. Okay, I've got this.
Yeah. It's like I'll figure it out. Just if I need a little extra help, I'll let you know. But I was determined. It was one of those things. I think there was just enough determination in me to like, I'm gonna figure this out in a way that works for me. And
Very interesting. So you fall in love with Adobe. They romance you early in senior. year of high school, and you're choosing colleges, you want to go into graphic design. Like you said, you end up at MC.
Yep.
Why MC?
So it's interesting. I was going to go to Mississippi State. I'd actually paid like a deposit. I'd picked out some stuff from my room. I'd also applied to SCAD, SCAD Atlanta or SCAD Savannah College of Art and Design, and I got a good scholarship there. But for me, I know, and I'll talk about this a little bit later, but life is so much about relationships for me, and design is very important, but I'm also very much a people person, and relationships mean a lot. And MC, I did just a campus visit. One of the friends in high school, her mom worked out there, and we actually went out there just to visit her mom. And like I remember driving over the hill and just seeing MC, and just something felt right. I did a campus tour. No joke, campus tour that night. I came home, submitted my application the next day for an early decision scholarship, and went. I didn't tell my parents. I did it. And it was like, this was the place.
How'd your parents react to that?
Wow. They were actually gone to eat, and they came home, and I told them, and it was a little tense, because I mean, I gotten a decent scholarship to state, but the difference in the tuition,
Substantial.
was very substantial. But in the end, they were like, if this is where you feel you should go, then we're going to support you in that.
Sounds like you got killer parents, man.
Yeah, it really does.
It's really cool.
They're awesome. They have their issues like everybody's parents does.
They got it. That's what makes you.
But
Careful, we're recording this. In case you're unaware.
They've always supported me.
Yeah.
So you fall, like Austin's saying, you fall in love with design, Adobe, yada yada. You graduate from MC.
Yep.
What do you do? Like, how do you start doing design in Jackson, Mississippi?
Yeah. So the biggest thing for me while I was at MC was I started doing T-shirt designs. I really always liked Illustrator. It was kind of one of the first programs that I started working in. So I did T-shirt designs for all the events on campus, and that led to projects on campus, off campus, to really just, I would say that was the start of my freelance career.
Yeah.
Are you doing it for like campus activities? Yes. What do you?
So all the clubs and tribes.
Because everybody needs shirts on a college campus.
Yeah. I was gonna say
that's kind of genius.
Literally, shirts are handed out like pins.
Yeah.
The Bank Plus pen.
Right.
It's like everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
It's like at MC, I felt like I did so many shirts that I could walk across the quad and see at least 4 or 5 shirts, because I was doing them for just about every club and just about every tribe for about 2 years.
Wow.
Wow. So I did
That's a lot of shirts.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And you enjoyed that process.
Oh, I did. It was, for me, it was something outside of the classroom. It was a way that I could challenge myself. And I've always said that I want to say yes to things sometimes that I don't always know how to do, to push myself to learn something new. I kind of rhymed. But
you're really big on seeing the satisfaction of seeing your work in the wild as well.
Oh yeah, I love it.
It's very a t-shirt's very tactile. It's
exactly.
like different than a graphic on a wall. You're like, that person's wearing my artwork.
Yeah, yeah, and it never gets old. It never, even with the work that it's like, I'm not like, I don't really like, that I did.
My clients have bad taste.
But still you
That's
see it.
That's a whole nother episode, isn't it?
Yeah, you see it and you're like,
Yeah.
But hey, it is neat to see. So did that, and then really I started doing work outside of school. I would say, one of my biggest first freelance projects, I'll make it quick. We were at Passion in Atlanta, struck up a conversation with the owner of Guest Relations Marketing in Atlanta. It was at Starbucks. He was a door holder. I said my name, introduced myself. He was the owner of this marketing company, and I said, hey, I'm a freshman graphic designer. I'd love to show you some work. If you'll take a look at it,
shoot your shot, man.
Yeah,
come on.
It's like I'm like I don't really have a portfolio, but I have a PDF with like 3 things on it. If you want to take a look at that.
Wow.
No joke. 2 weeks later, he sends me my first major project. It's in Atlanta. I'm at MC. So
and you're a freshman.
I'm a freshman.
That's a crazy story.
And I get 3 poster designs, a magazine ad, and something for Golf Georgia. And it's this, like, the biggest campaign I'd ever worked on, the biggest paycheck that I'd ever had as a freshman. It was like, dude, like, okay,
this is for real.
Rush. At that point, it's like, I have arrived.
I have to ask then, just because while I myself am not that creative, I spend enough time with creative people that I know that the majority of them, when I talk to them, they're like, I could have learned what I did at college on YouTube.
Sure.
So I have to ask, is like, other than building up this clientele base, which I'm sure you still see many of those people because people stay local.
Sure.
Do you feel like your experience at college, not even just MC, but at college as a creative, is that still valid? Is that something you would, advise people to do? What do you, I'm just curious.
Yeah. Back then, at the time, YouTube honestly has come so far, even since in the 10 years while I was, even at school.
Yeah.
I definitely think that for many, an education is important. There's generational aspects to that where like certain kids just like to go to school because they're going to be the first ones. I think certain art schools provide a lot of value, but it's really, really expensive. And depending on where you go after graduation, it may not be worth the hundreds of thousands of dollars that you spend, especially with just the market and how tough it is these days with competition. So for me, I think it was valuable. I loved my time at MC. I loved the relationships that I made. The money that was spent there has been well worth it, specifically for me, and the relationships and even the clients that have come from that.
Sure.
Two, I know for me, I wanted to be able to teach, and I still want to be able to teach. So I knew that in order for me to do that, I had to get my master's. So I was at MC for 7 years, and did 4 years undergrad, and then 2.5, so almost 2.5, getting my master's. But my long-term plan was to teach, to learn,
Gotcha.
to go out and learn, be in the field, learn the skills and the qualities and all that of design, and then really be able to either retire into teaching or be able to teach others along the way, because I love what I do, but I also love sharing and talking about what I do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And
I
it's
didn't know
really
that.
neat. Yeah. So
cool.
that's one of the reasons why I would say for me, yes. For everybody, it might not be the thing. YouTube University's free, and it just takes your time. And with places like The Future and other YouTube channels that you can pay, even subscription-based things, gosh, you can. There are kids now that are 8, 9, 10 years old that are learning things that I didn't learn until I was in college.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they have the world at their fingertips to be able to learn, and it's so cool. Now for colleges, it does, it can hinder probably some of that, but
The hope would probably be that would make colleges more competitive.
correct.
Anyway, that's
That's another conversation.
Yeah, sorry.
So you get out of school and you jump into basically the agency life.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So you're kind of, and this has been your story, you're like pseudo freelance, also working for people.
Correct.
Right. So
Correct.
those years were some interesting things happened, and just like navigating what it means to work for someone at their company, and
Definitely.
Yeah.
My first agency job, I worked at really 3 during my master's. I worked at Solve Design Studio here in Ridgeland. Then I was at Creative Distillery. And then I worked 6 months. It was actually between my graduating and starting my master's at Hightower. And Hightower was an advertising agency. It was very interesting. They only advertised to truck drivers at the time. I don't know if they've changed, but so I did everything from like truck wraps to like advertisements for 18-wheelers and
Copenhagen.
Yeah. Now, my favorite story that I always tell like students is like, we have these big dreams that you're going to graduate college and you're going to go to a place and get to work on these super cool designs. You know, it's like for the first 4 months, I worked in black and white, and I resized newspaper ads for Dupree Gas, or Dupree, I think it was Dupree Gas, for 4 months.
Oh,
it's like I just had to pay my.
And
I never saw color on my screen.
Jeez.
Like you're like on an Amazon Kindle.
The day that I
doing
walked
design.
in and they said, "Hey, you get to like sketch and do color," I was like,
What?
Are you kidding?
I'm
It's
not
like,
prepared.
it's like you work for Pixar.
I was like, yes.
So then you jump into take an interesting leap, and I don't even know this story, out of the agency life into the church world.
Correct.
What
Again,
caused that jump?
Again, it's the relationships for me. I had really coming out of school, I graduated, and it was between, I was interviewing at Mad Genius at the time, and I had also been a volunteer at a church here in town for about 4 years. And I joined, and really there were some shifts happening at the time, and it was really, it was, I had the opportunity to either probably pursue Mad Genius, the agency life, or go to work for a place that meant a lot to me, where I had people that I loved and my community was there. And for me, I chose that.
Yeah.
And some shifts were happening to where, there was a position, it really just kind of opened up perfectly. And I went to work there for a couple years doing.
That's actually
design
so
at church.
interesting as a creative, because it feels like anyone that I would talk to, like, they're in the church game, but if an agency came knocking,
They're out.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
like,
Right.
I'm gone.
It's the reverse path.
Well, and here's the big kicker for me was the freelance side of things.
Yeah.
Because when you work, most of the time, when you work in an agency, you're going to sign a non-compete, or you're going to sign something that says, like, you can't really do outside work. And I respect that. I mean, that makes total sense.
It's hard to compete with Jesus, though. So, yeah.
He has got a killer non-compete.
Correct. But for me, it was like, I had enough clients to where, I could take the church job and make what I needed to, and then supplement the rest with some of my freelance work. So it was like a perfect combo for me.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Which, fast forwarding it a little bit, because
Yeah.
there's some stuff I want to get to,
Yeah.
but eventually you have to step away from your
Correct.
position at the church and start doing
Yeah.
freelance full time.
Yep.
How's that going?
Dude, that's awesome. I in 2018, I stepped away from my my job, and that was a big deal for me. That was, everything about that was challenging and difficult, and the situation was handled really well, but it was also it was a really dark time just for me. I mean, it's a big part of my story, and just kind of how it's leaving, and then really kind of set me on a new path for better understanding myself, better understanding why I do what I do, how I'm wired, the specific ways that I'm wired, and just a better understanding who I am.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the start of that journey was leaving. But I left there in 2018, and about a month later, I opened up full-time D-Nub design.
Yeah.
I was at Red Samurai here in Madison, and I was like, all right.
Shout out. Sponsor us.
isn't?
You can really
Yeah,
sponsor
please
us.
do.
actually.
We will accept.
Hello,
Hashtag-
friend. Please sponsor us.
Hashtag Chicken Bowl.
Chicken sushi bowl.
Chicken
Yo,
sushi
he
bowl.
is
Make you say
always-
it right now.
Yes, he corrects
We don't have
me.
a chicken bowl. Sorry.
I know.
But so I was sitting there, and I pulled up my phone, and I went to the Secretary of State, and I said, all right, we're just going to do it. And I was like, we're going to call it D-Nub Design. And boom, right there in the booth, eating my chicken sushi bowl. I created D-Nub Design, and dude, it's been awesome since then. It has been a roller coaster.
You met us.
Yeah. You know,
I see a
I've been
definitive
here.
pattern, man. You're like, you know what? I'm doing this.
Yeah.
I'm going to Mississippi College. I'm starting a company, right?
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. One of the important things too, though, to mention, because this is a really beautiful part of the story. You left the job, but you didn't leave the community. This community is still your community, which
Correct.
is a true testament to them, and also to you, that relational component isn't just something that you give lip service to. Like, that's a
Right.
big deal for you.
Right.
You know, as much as I've tried to recruit you to make this your community, like, look, man, I have my community. I'm doing good work for you. Leave me alone, right? So, yeah. So you get.
I see you enough.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So this company has exceeded your wildest expectations.
It really has.
You
It
know,
really
which is
has.
awesome. How
Yeah.
redemptive is that?
It's one of the, like, at the time, I probably sound more confident on the exterior than I probably am on the inside, because there, like, it was tough. I think any person that goes out on their own experiences the highs and lows of owning your own, and especially at the start where, I take risk, but I'm not someone that just jumps into risk. Like, I very much think a good bit about, like, major decisions. And it was, it was tough, but the redemptive part of it has been that I don't know if I really did anything different. I said, like, I'm going to commit to this. I'm going to work hard. I'm going to be a generally nice person, I'm going to hold to what I know, and I'm going to provide value, and I'm going to work hard. And I said that, and I'm going to serve people well. And then I'm going to just let it do what it's going to do. And like the Lord has just blessed this business more than I ever could have thought or could have imagined.
Are the majority of your clients still church based?
I'd say about 70% of what I do is within the church and ministry world.
So that brings up an interesting point again, because I think when people think about church ministry and all of that, maybe not as much at Vertical because we kind of put it in front of them a lot, but I don't think that they often think about the design parts of ministry.
Right.
And I think even sometimes it comes up even in meetings, like we sit around this table in staff meetings. It's like we work through all the ministry aspects of things, and it's like, oh yeah, we have to figure out how we're branding this and how we're doing all of this. Can you tell me what that's like to work in the church world? And I'm sure in some places you have to say like, no, this is very important to your ministry, and here's why. How do you pitch that to churches that may not always understand that, or even people who ask you?
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of different things for me. I think branding and design and communication and messaging and all that within the church, it kind of, you fit it kind of under communications or under media. But ultimately, I think we're trying to say, like, is it important? Like, does it have a space in the church? And I think that if it has a space in everyday life, then it should definitely have a space within our churches. Two, the biggest thing I think that we can control somewhat is our first impression. We put clothes on our bodies that say something about who we are or things that we like. We have
Adidas.
Love
Adidas.
Exactly. So that we do the
Former
same
Nazis,
thing.
if you didn't
We
know,
have,
so.
and all churches have brand and language and messaging and all that really helps to dictate your first impression. And design is a huge part of that.
Yeah.
It's a part of it whether we think it is or not. Branding, the messaging that we say, like, people are either going to come up with that on their own, or we're going to help dictate what people like and say, about us. So does it have a place in the church? I definitely think so. There's going to be some churches that are going to like it more, and respect that a little bit more than others. But I definitely think it has a place within.
Did you ever deal with like those insecurities working in ministry? Like I feel like I think that all the time as a fellow creative, as much as that word makes me want to throw up a little bit in my mouth. Yeah. But like, am I wasting my time doing this? Like, does it matter?
Do they even appreciate this?
Well, not even that, but like in the grand scheme of ministry, like you can validate going to a soup kitchen and serving people because you're serving people.
Correct.
Yada, yada, yada. But like,
right.
What the frick does a video matter?
Well,
this story is 15 seconds long.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, it is about story.
Yeah.
I think it's about what we communicate and how we get to communicate that, and thinking about the current culture and how they watch things and how they consume information. Like we've said before as the church, like we have the greatest story we feel that's ever been, told. And back in the day when people didn't know how to read, that's why they used stained glass and they used bright colors, and because people didn't know how to read, but they could see an image and they could understand visually what was going on. And then you had the interesting part about the light illuminating that, and it's like illuminating that for them in the presence within the church and all that. And I think the same could be said today with what we get to do as creatives is we get to take the story of the gospel and we get to build elements and use color and texture and font and layout and all of these, weird creative words to make it visually appealing to the culture that we're in. And that's really important, because if it looks bad or it doesn't communicate, then unfortunately the culture we are in, they're just going to scroll right past it.
Yeah.
You know? So you've got to do something to stop the scroll, or you have to create content that looks good and communicates what it needs to, so people will actually stop and watch, because people really struggle to pay attention to anything.
We should really think about bringing back stained glass.
So it's fascinating, the history behind it. I know, I'm just saying,
That's,
but just how it was birthed, and the reason that kind of stained glass came into
it's very
was
cool.
because of that. So
how do you go about because you design for so many different churches and ministries? I'm sure it's I would have a hard time, keeping things, like this works for this church. This does not work for this church. How do you know that you've done well, like a design was successful or a campaign was successful if you're working on somebody's website?
Yeah.
How do you rate yourself on that, I guess?
For me, it's going to be one. I think that goals have to be set at the beginning. Design. We're going to say, I've always said design is subjective, and is, but the reality is, at the same time, there are certain rules around design and art and branding and all that say this is right and this might not be. So while it's subjective, there's certain things that are going to make it be more right or more wrong. Or if you're not even going to go by that, then you as a creative or the organization that you're working with has to set goals at the start, measurable goals, to know if what they do is successful or not. Two, how do I keep up? A big question I'm usually asked is like, how do I make sure that like this stuff doesn't look like this stuff?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that goes back to our original question: is your brand and your vision and your mission. And your church is specific to your church, and your church should have a look, should have a feel, should have messaging, communication, colors, photography, all that goes into it that says this is who we are. And it's probably going to be different from the church down the street. Yeah. So it ties back into it. You're successful if it looks like you and it sounds like you and it talks like you. It probably is you, So I think it kind of it's the circle.
I have to know, what was your immediate thought when you first came here? And you were like, man, I have to communicate who these people are.
So honestly, my first thought was how Vertical has done stuff is very different from my personal style. But I really like that. I even talking to Ben when we first started some of these conversations, I'm just very honest, because I'm always like that. I said, Vertical has a style that is not my typical style, but I'm looking to push into something that is different from what I get to do every day. That is a little bit younger and a little bit more youthful and fun than what I get to do. So I would like to, grow into that. That was, I'm pretty sure that was my first thought, was it's a little bit different than what I get to do, but I'm looking for something different.
Cool.
And we had conversations years prior,
correct,
talking about Luke's portfolio and what he was bringing here. And
who's Luke?
Who's Luke? Well, if I have to explain that, he was the guy that was here before, that was setting all these things in motion, that was pulling us out of. And we don't have time for this conversation, but he is solely responsible, I would say, for pulling us out of, that's a great graphic that Church X did, let's pull that in and use it.
Correct.
He was he helped us mature and grow up in what it meant to have good design. When you say that's a fair description.
Yeah, I would agree.
And so we were looking over his stuff, sitting at a restaurant and talking about it and just being curious, and you were inquisitive about that. And it was really cool to see you graft into that. And also, I would say, exceptionally cool to see what you've done with it.
Yeah.
And that you have the ability to maintain, and this is something that we struggle with as a staff right now, not in a bad way, but we try to balance the tension of, we want to honor the DNA of what's gone before us, but we do need to grow up in some ways. We do need to mature and do things differently the way that we are now. And you're just striking an incredible balance with that, and the stuff that you talk about with we should be able to present this message in a way that's palatable and respected, and I think when you start talking about your gift, Chase, getting back to what you were saying, I could say the same things about the talks that I deliver.
Yeah, I immediately when I asked that question to be like the devil's advocate, but like I don't see how you read Psalms and not think there's a place for artistic expression for anybody in the church.
Well, I mean, if you look back in history, the most major, artists that you'd ever think of, they're derived from church culture.
Correct.
Yeah. And it really gets down to our gift. I mean, this is a conversation DW and I have had a lot. We are responsible for expressing the gifts that God has given us in the best way that we can. And sometimes that means that it's underappreciated by our peers.
Sure.
But that's okay. That's not really who we're working for them in one respect, but not really in the other. So, if I decided, well, I'm going to download Adobe and try to do this, like what a disaster. That's way outside of my gifting, but it's exactly your gifting. It's how God has built you to express your gifts to the world. That's what you've got to do.
Right.
Which is awesome. We do have the greatest message, and you're doing a fantastic job helping us get it out there.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, so we wanted to wrap it up and just extend that job offer to you one more time.
Yeah. All right. Favorite on the spot, favorite DNub design series wise so far?
Oh, there were some good ones last year.
Yeah. The one that always immediately comes to mind, because we've never done anything like it, was Consider the Raven. That was so fun.
Consider the Raven was one for me. 1A, though, and it was just because of my affinity for this series, was Face the Nation.
Yeah.
It was great.
Loved it so
Uncommon
much.
Sense, crazy.
Uncommon Sense was really good.
that was really
man,
good.
I forgot about Uncommon Sense.
I can't help but think those were all my series.
Oh, whatever.
Those are great.
Moving on. Next
The
segment.
inspiration's just there.
Maybe D-Nub likes me more than you, Ben.
Next segment.
All right, let's test D-Nub's theology.
D-Nub calls me up. So, inward fire. Can we name that something different?
Is this dude's stomach like
Coin
on
in the
fire?
fish's
or-
mouth.
Is it
Who is in these
indigestion?
meetings?
We should do the comedy spins on all these crazy series names we come up with and what D-Nub's like jokey interpretation.
That would be a
of
great
is.
YouTube series.
Oh, yeah.
All right, script it. Script it? I don't know.
There we go.
I'm tired. Next segment. Oh! Wow. I freaking hate. This is why we
This
kicked
is why
him
he's
off.
not on the podcast.
Gosh, you know who would never do that? Megan.
Yep.
Miss Megan. Anyway, Mrs. Megan.
Miss-
I
Mrs.
miss
Megan.
Mrs. Megan.
There you go.
All right. Ask us anything.
Oh,
Derek, have you ever even listened to an episode of this podcast? You can be honest.
I have.
He
I
lied
listened to
us.
one of the Cody CrossFit.
That
ones.
doesn't
That's
count.
not
That's
here.
so
I know.
different.
Totally different business.
So
Yeah.
they have a podcast?
Oh,
I think
boy.
so.
I think so.
It's
Wildly
not a
popular.
CrossFit podcast.
Yeah.
Anyway,
That was just some cross contamination.
Yep.
yeah, thanks.
These guys have
Cross-pollination.
8 podcasts.
At least. And
Ben and
5
I do,
we've
yeah.
stopped. Yeah.
Sounds like.
One was CrossFit. One was like old military guys or something, Vietnam vets,
Yeah.
something like that.
We specifically looked at the life and journey of Theodore Roosevelt for about 2 years, I think. It
We
was
were
great.
good at it.
All
Anyway.
right.
Okay.
What are our questions?
Well, I got tired. Actually, I didn't get tired. The vertical community got tired of our fun, happy, lackadaisical questions, and they decided to challenge us publicly to a theology off.
Yeah.
So we're going
That
to come
sounds
out
exciting.
real hot with some spicy questions.
Come on.
Do you want...
Do we get to know who sent these so we can
We're
ridicule
not
them
allowed.
publicly?
No. It literally
Please.
it doesn't even give us their name.
These are anonymous.
All right, do you want controversial debate or do you want spicy and sweaty?
We have to do both.
I'll
so
take spicy and sweaty
let's
for
just go.
500.
Spicy and sweaty first. Okay.
I'm ready for lunch.
Yeah. Why does God allow Satan to rule the earth?
What you think about that, Ben?
Why
Double dare.
For our All right.
do they mean why do bad things happen, or do they mean literally like in that passage where he's like, hey, here's the earth?
So the beauty of this question is that is all of it. Interpret it how you will.
Yes. They would have to
Hopefully
send
we
more.
answer it well.
In true theologian fashion, we answer the question with more questions just to cover ourselves in case we answer the question incorrectly.
Yeah, that's what we do.
All right, so how do we get this started?
I feel like the people with the most Bible schooling should go first.
Derek, you're up. So a little bit of the backstory is evil enters into the world, and there's a time period that we are currently living in, as the Bible explains it, that the enemy of God, which is Satan, who did not begin as an enemy, became an enemy and was cast out of heaven, is now ruling with dominion over the earth. But that dominion is temporary, and Jesus will return and make that right and redeem the world, which most people forget about. But there will be a new earth. The earth is not going to vanish according to the biblical model. So we're in that period now, and it's very confusing for people, especially people who experience bad things. Why is God allowing this? Like, why would this setup even be a part of God's divine design? That's explaining the backstory of the question.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. So it is a confusing thing, and I don't want to back up too far with my answer, but I do think we should set the pace here and say, well, God has the ultimate authority and a longer range plan and view than we could possibly understand. So many things in the Christian life that feel unjust to us are largely because of our limited perspective, which is a hard pill to swallow because we like to have answers. We've grown up in the scientific model where we feel like if we investigate something enough, we can very clearly understand why things are happening. And the Christian worldview just does not lead to that end, which is why it's kind of waning in popularity right now.
It can be infuriating.
Yes. Now that's not to say that we should throw all that out. I mean, that's a very large mistake that Christians make, just disregarding the scientific worldview. I have a lot of problems with that. But this particular question does bring us to that dilemma. We don't really know. We would have to speculate based on our limited point of view. C.S. Lewis has done a lot of writing about this, and I like a lot of his explanations because it really contrasts. He uses light and darkness. He brings in the concept of love. Without the presence of another option, then we would simply be indentured servants to God. And that's not what God was after. So there must be an alternative, and that alternative is something very different from God, so that we are choosing God and choosing to love God. Now, does that get to the issue of dominion and the enemy having authority, especially you went through that series in Job? Very problematic. Like, let's hand Job up and see how this goes. So I don't want to dominate the answer. I just want to give a little backstory and set the stage for where we're probably going to head in the next few minutes.
Yeah. I kind of struggle with the idea of this, and it's because I probably think about this a little differently. Because even in C.S. Lewis writings, typically whenever you see, he talks a lot about light and dark. He talks a lot about peaks and troughs and all those things that contrast, right? But it is always up to the decision of people, and I think so often, at least for sure in Southern culture, we often think like, oh, Satan got me today, and then that kind of thing. When in reality, I do not believe that people are inherently bad. I think that there are people who think that, sin has so permeated mankind that we come out and we're just doomed to hell and Satan has us, by the neck, I think that it comes down to a choice often. I think too often we give Satan more credit than is deserved. And so is there an option for bad things to happen? Yes, but I think that people's choices play a very large part of that. Even when we see Satan directly interacting with Job, that's in the Old Testament. There's not a whole lot of examples in the New Testament of Satan directly talking with people. It does happen, but it's not nearly as prevalent. So much more in the New Testament, you see options given to people, and they make those choices based on their relationship with Christ, where they are spiritually. And so I don't know. I think that this question, I get why it's asked, and I think that they're getting towards the fact, why do bad things happen? Well, because we live in an imperfect place. Yeah. We're not to the point where we are with Christ yet, where everything will be made new and all of those things are set. But I don't want to take it as he just can do whatever he wants here, because that's not true. God is still God. He's still on his throne. He's still king of the universe and all of those things, and he does not make a move that God does not know about. So we can't give Satan more power than is due. Yeah,
that's very well said. It's kind of this versus that. What's the greater influence in our life, the evil that is within us or the evil that is around us? And I think most people would say it's the evil within us.
But it's easy to push it off the other way.
Definitely, because we tend to push away from personal responsibility. And not saying the person asking this question is doing that, but you do have to contextualize it.
I'm probably reading too much into it.
No, I think we have to with a question this open-ended. But you have to bring in spiritual warfare here as well. that the Bible clearly explains that good and evil are clashing even as we speak.
Right. And I don't want to be dismissive of it.
Yeah, in unseen realms. No, I think you are bringing that in very well to say there is a continued battle going on. It isn't that God said, okay, well, the earth is yours, have a good time. And at a point that only I know, Jesus is going to make all this right. Like, that's not how this is going. There is an inherent struggle there. And I think when we recognize that, it allows us to say the enemy does have a lot of power in how the world is going. And we can see that especially systemically these days, that things are bending in that direction further and further. But there is a battle going on. You look at the book of Daniel and it says that. You look at the life of Jesus in the desert and in the garden, good and evil are clashing, and we know how the battle is going to end, and that allows us to not see ourselves, as the question might imply, as collateral damage to some cosmic game.
Yeah.
That God is still involved, and the enemy does, in essence, according to the Old Testament, have to ask permission and report back to God about things that are going on.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah, it's like the authority still belongs to God.
Right.
But, even evil and all of that has to be given
It is
permission.
Mm-hmm.
I think like the story of the pigs, like the spirits.
Yeah.
They ask, and when they're given permission, then they leave the man, and they go into the pigs. There's permission, there's power, there's authority, authority complex even in that.
Yeah.
Of being asked, and then only when Jesus said, did they leave the man and they go into the pig.
That's a great example. The only other thing that I would think of coming out of that is, and you just made me think of this, talking about that again in C.S. Lewis, particularly in the Screwtape Letters, he talks about how often Satan gains more domination, he gains more influence in people's lives when he allows things to become good. And I think that speaks to that systematic thing that you're talking about. I think so often we are more overcome by the power that has been granted to Satan when we become lackadaisical.
Oh yeah,
that's where we trip up.
And I don't think it automatically starts just straight evil. I think it's just like a slow progression away that eventually leads down
to
something evil.
That's why the Bible cautions so much against being comfortable.
Right.
Well, and
complacent.
And I think I would say
tough news for the Americans.
Yeah,
for sure.
I
would say to the person that asks, typically when I'm thinking about those kind of questions, because something is happening that's making me consider it, and bad things are happening. And I think that the Bible and scholars like C.S. Lewis are very clear that whenever you are going through hard things, typically the fact that you're asking that questions means that you're in line to grow immensely through that. And so good for you for asking hard questions.
Yeah. And the Bible says resist the devil, he will flee from you. So I think a good way to wrap at least this initial part, hopefully these kind of questions will keep on rolling into our podcast, but to be able to say your alignment or your allegiance with Christ means that the dominion of the enemy has been severely limited.
Correct.
Because you have the power of Christ within you. That's the promise. So the fact that the enemy rules the earth doesn't mean that he also rules you. It just depends on which side you align with. Again, back to the personal responsibility.
Very good. You passed.
Whew, we did it. All right.
Get to keep our jobs.
Do they get easier from here?
Actually, I think I'm going to save the second one of maybe for next week.
Oh, cool.
Or maybe later. I'm not
we
sure.
did so well we got out.
Well, we just took so long on that answer.
It was an interesting question.
I want people to actually click D-Nub's episode.
Okay,
so if they see
whoever
an hour
asked the
30
question,
on it.
whoever asked the question, thank you. Thank you for pushing us into that difficult space.
Hopefully you're listening.
Yes. Yeah.
All right.
it's just some dude in the lobby.
I came up, in the spirit of who we have on the episode, I came up with a question that's going to be very pointed to D-Nub, but I have no doubt that Austin and Ben will be capable of having an opinion. But I'm more curious about
that was so passive.
Derek's opinion.
All right, let's see.
Hopefully
Let's
you've
see
thought about this question before,
Let's
Derek.
hope.
In your opinion,
Okay.
even if it's a snap decision that you make right now, what's the greatest design / branding that you think of when you hear that asked?
Oh man.
I already have an answer.
I have a very recent answer.
Okay, we will pause those two and wait for Derek. Unless we need to.
That just gives credit to your statement that we would have opinions.
I know my friends.
Do you need to bring in some music here just while Derek's
It's
thinking?
like bam, ba, 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 bam,
So the first, I would say the first. I know. There's so much out there, so many that I follow. I really, right now, the person that I really respect a lot has just been some of Peter Voth's work on Instagram with his.
And everybody said, who?
Who? Spell it.
Yes, PETERVOTH. He has done a lot of work with Crossway Bible and
Crossway Bibles.
ESV and stuff
I know
like
his
that
work.
within.
Yeah.
Very.
He's in that like Newman class, all those people that are
yes.
Well, I don't know. He's pretty different from Newman.
Really strong vector work. Extremely strong vector work. And I don't do
Wow.
Yeah,
That's beautiful.
He's got some really, really good work.
When
is
you're
it my
designing
favorite?
decks
I don't
of
know.
cards, I'm a fan.
Yeah,
Look at
you
that.
know, like
Yeah,
I
that's cool.
struggle to say like this is my favorite because like I follow so many and I'm inspired by so many, and just I
that
respect the creativity
Yeah, I've seen it.
of
Fusions.
everyone.
Wow.
Oh, I mean, it's just-
He's nailed the gold foil look.
yes,
It's perfect.
and two, the thing that I like
Something
about
Luke
him
was
is
also a fan of, by the way.
Luke was good at it too.
he's shown some of his process work like through videos.
I can't
And
imagine.
like no joke, I screen record it and slow it down and do it like frame by frame so I can like actually see what he's doing, and I still don't know what he's
There's
doing.
an object. There's another object. One more object.
It blows my mind. But two, the neat thing is he's able to somehow, I don't know how he does it, make it work within churches. And the neat thing that I've even said here is that churches are willing to pay him for his services to do stuff that is so intricate and cool like that. It's really neat. So he's just someone that when you first asked, that's who I thought of. It's
Good
very
answer.
Cool, so
That is a good answer. All right, we'll let Ben go first.
Go ahead, Ben.
Well, everyone knows what I'm about to say that knows me. I'm a huge fan of Draplin because of
Aaron Draplin.
he forces himself into simplicity, which I feel like is a very unique talent in a creative and in a designer. And just the way that his mind works and how just the positive energy that he brings to the creative community, I think is pretty awesome.
I actually met him and I got his autograph in his book.
Yeah, I met him once too. I went to we don't have time for that story, but my kids actually met him, and he was at one of those pop-up, teaching people how to do things.
Yep.
And he threw probably $500 worth of stuff at my kids and signed it, and he was like, "So cool, you're here. Stay creative."
he's awesome.
That's very cool.
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. And then they did some stuff and tagged him on Instagram. He replied back to him. I mean, look, I disagree with a lot of his views on a lot of things, but that doesn't even matter because he's Draplin, and
work
we
is
can.
solid.
Yeah,
Yeah,
people
his
can
work is
disagree
so
on
cool.
things, so I just love his approach to
What?
life. Yeah. People can disagree.
And now that
All right, what do
say
you
it,
got?
Okay, so I have somebody who I follow who comes to mind, but I have a very quick story on why this works well. So a few weeks ago, Caitlin and I took a short trip to Austin. One of my favorite cities. Caitlin had never been there. It's just a fun town. And so we're walking around, and the best part of like being there is at night you can go down 6th Street and there's all these fun live music and bars. Well, during the day it's all just restaurants. And so we're walking down 6th Street. We're going to a ramen shop, and I passed one of these bars, and I was like, "Wow, that branding is awesome. It makes me want to come back here tonight and check it out and see who's playing here." And so we go and eat ramen. And later that night, we're walking back by, and during the day, it was all black and white. It was something, I can't remember the name of the establishment, but it had like it looked like an old timey barber shop.
Oh, that's cool.
Very cool vibe, black and white. Well, I got back down there at about 9:30 that night. We listened to a band somewhere else, and I was coming back over there. And when I got there at night, I could see when the lights were all lit up, it was all rainbow. And everything on that side of the street was rainbow. And I was like, oh man, this is a gay bar. And I didn't even know it. But great branding made me want to come back. Excellent.
Did you look up who did the design?
I tried to. I couldn't find it. And sadly enough, I didn't go in to find out. But it was great branding. The guy that I follow, and I don't really know. This is just kind of my style, what I find attractive. His name is Justin Hilton. And he does mostly concert posters. He does
What
a
a
lot of
cool
concert
genre.
poster design.
Yep.
He did a lot of stuff back in the day for like Dead and Company and all of that. But it's all like the foil, all of that. It's unlike really anybody else that I follow. Very cool though. I really like a lot of his stuff.
What'd you say his name was?
His name was Justin Hilton. I can send you his.
Everybody in their vehicles now pulling out their phones. Who are these people?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting question.
Thanks.
You have an
Did you
answer?
do somebody, Mom?
Yeah. So the way I worded the question allows my answer to actually work. But it's a guy.
Weird.
I
That's
know.
strange that worked out that way.
The guy's name is Chase Hall, but he's not a graphic designer. He is a light show / stage designer.
Oh, that's cool.
He's done stuff. The main place I know him from is Passion, but his eye for creating spaces like that, and then also
Environments.
Bless you. Go get the shot.
Allergies in
Vaccinated.
Mississippi. Yep.
Vaccinated.
his
J&J,
also
baby.
Hashtag pollen.
his geometry taste, but also his taste in color work is just great. I love it.
What's his name? Chase Hall?
Chase Hall. Cool. Yeah.
You would like that, Jay.
Charlie Hall.
Yeah, pretty funny.
Speaking of passion, looping it all back together.
All right.
Yeah.
Where are we headed now?
I guess we should let Derek tell us what we should like and with some recommends.
Heck
Since
yeah.
is he the most tasteful here? I don't know.
Easily.
Easily. Look at that ring.
Look at
Let's
that.
find out.
Recommends.
Hot dog. Woo! Oh, who was it? Austin? Ben? I don't know. Who's clapping like a
randomly
turd?
clapping?
Who's making my job harder? I don't know. Not a friend of mine. Recommends.
Who was that? It? That wasn't the scene.
Nope. That wasn't even. That was a minor melody, I
I
think.
don't even know what that was.
All right. Want, need, where, read. You're gonna. Holy crap. You're gonna recommend us something that you should want, you should need, you should wear, or you should read.
Also, thanks, Janice.
Who's Janice?
And
Who's
here we
Janice,
go.
Derek?
There's no time.
Do you
Yeah.
think Janice missed me while I was gone? Because she listens.
She does listen, yes.
Has she said anything about me, Ben?
Only kind things.
Oh, okay, good.
Hey, you know what? I introduced myself to somebody on Sunday. I said, I'm Chase. They're like, oh, I know. I listen to the podcast.
Dude,
I'm
that
like,
happened.
Great feeling.
That happened to me 2
man.
weeks ago. Somebody was
Man.
like, "Are you Austin?" I was like, "Yeah."
That's me. Anyway.
I didn't tell them I'd been banished from the podcast, but I was
Yeah.
psyched they knew us. All right, recommends.
You don't have to know that I'm outside the walls now.
Oh, God.
All right, we're going to
let's go.
start off with a want, and as everybody knows, except for, Derek, want is built kind of around entertainment, yada, 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 which I think is directly up Derek's wheelhouse, and I was unsurprised that he chose that his segment of recommends today. So, Derek, you're first, my friend.
Take it away.
What am I saying? Want?
It was something you should want.
Recommend something
Oh,
that
yeah.
you want.
What you're going to want.
What you're gonna want.
That's how you have to start it.
What
What
you're
you're
gonna
gonna
want.
want.
I'm confused.
There's a
Say,
cadence.
say that and then say your answer.
Oh, what you gonna want?
Lose a hand.
Great.
And then,
Oh my gosh.
So, what do I was gonna say something. I thought I was doing something I was gonna watch.
Yeah,
oh
that's
yeah,
one.
you can want to watch.
Oh, okay, cool.
You can
Yeah,
want to
Or it
watch
could be
something.
entertainment based. Yeah.
Scratch that.
What you want to watch.
Clearly doesn't listen.
Yeah, sorry.
It's okay.
It's too good for us.
I would say someone that I've been following for a while on YouTube is in the whole vein of like art and painting and drawing.
Great website.
That is really, really cool is a guy named 1000. He does these, and it is very different from anything that I do, but he was based out of Seattle, recently moved, but he does these really cool graffiti style drawing, painting things with really strong, crazy colors. And it's like these creatures that he comes up with and makes, and he sells them like on t-shirts and prints, and he does murals all over the world, and just really, really cool. His channel, he comes up with all the music on his channel. He films it. He
This is a
does
complete
like
package.
beats and like all the stuff. It's cool. So,
What's his name?
1000.
10. Okay.
Yep, 1000.
Somebody has shared his stuff with me
Yeah,
before.
it's cool. He's got some. Really cool
I'm
stuff.
very
And
intrigued.
They
It's
a good
recently
recommend.
moved. Yeah. So,
All right.
there you go.
That's enough out of you. Need. Who's need?
I think I'm need.
Oh, great.
Yeah. So what you're gonna need to do,
What you're gonna need.
and this is kind of up to your discretion how you want to go about this. But this past Saturday, I got done with everything I needed to do pretty early, and I had a nice break in my afternoon. And did Amazon just crash for you?
It's not pulling up the thing I was recommending. Does it exist?
Get it together,
If
Bezos.
Amazon doesn't know it exists, it does not
Get it
exist.
together, Bezos.
Did
Okay.
it just cease? What?
So this past Saturday, I found myself with a little bit of downtime, which very rarely happens, and I broke out the old Weber, and we grilled on the backyard for the first time, and I had forgotten how relaxing that is, just to stand out on your porch and survey your property with a
Charcoal?
spatula in your hand, all the way, charcoal all the way. So, but you don't. I mean, there's some people who prefer propane. There are some people who prefer the pellets. I know a lot of people have been getting into that. However, you're going to do it. Grill something this summer. Enjoy time outside with your fam.
Well, grill and chill.
It was a good time.
I'm thinking about to buy a Weber as well.
Yeah.
Grill and chill.
I think I'm gonna go wood chips though. Like pseudo fire cooking. But
They actually, I think we were talking about this. They have a smoking attachment for the Weber now. Pretty dope.
Yeah.
Oh.
Fancy.
Alas, where? Me?
Yes.
Right here. What you're gonna want to wear. All right, I found the brand. I think the page I bought it from just was broken, but I got it now. Tell me a better feeling than finding a really, really good product for wearing that is also cheap.
That is a good
Discovering
feeling.
that.
Yep. Yep.
It's a hard ask.
Does it
Right?
look cheap?
No.
Even better.
No. Okay.
It's all about appearances here in Madison.
Yes, it is.
I previously had what turned out to be an ill-fated beach trip planned a couple weekends ago. By couple, I mean last weekend. Wait, no, 2 weeks.
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks.
Yeah. Gosh, time. I, on a whim, bought some sunglasses because I had not bought sunglasses for myself in a very long time. I bought some Ray-Bans a few years ago. Within 2 weeks of owning them, left them at Applebee's. Called the Applebee's within 8 minutes of leaving, and they already said,
We've heard the
no,
story.
we can't find
Your
them."
mistake was going to Applebee's. But go
Yeah,
ahead.
let's
It's
let's
better
talk
than
about
Chili's.
your life choices.
It's better than Chili's, and I'm convinced now. Alas, there are some sunglasses on Amazon by the brand Kaliada. I don't know, Kaliyyadi.
Made in America.
Maybe. I don't know. But holy freaking crap. For $16.99, you get 2 pairs of sunglasses at 2 different designs or like styles. I bought the one I'm looking at right now. I don't think they have like specific names in the or whatnot. You just got to Google or search for the brand and then just scroll through their options.
They're polarized?
They're polarized. Polarized
Interesting.
for $17.
Way to go.
Yeah.
You could leave those at Applebee's once a week.
Yeah, that's literally $8.
We're
for
still
the-
in ministry. Hang on.
Not all of us are lead pastors.
That's true. I forget.
Anyway,
I'm the only wealthy one here.
if you're looking for some sunglasses and you're not the type of person to spend $90 on some Ray-Bans, which I will no longer do, they come with the lens wipes. They got little sleeves to put them in, stuff like that. It's really a really good steal for
So get your-
$17 for 2
Get your
pairs.
sunnies.
Yeah.
So people don't have to reverse.
Kaliyyadi.
There you go.
Kaliada.
Look that up. Send me the link.
Kaliyyadi.
Okay,
All right, my turn.
if you want.
Okay, I have a question. Have I recommended the Kingdom Life on this podcast yet?
Probably.
If you have.
Probably.
We'll see what happens.
I
Somebody
don't
will tell
mean
us.
generally. I mean,
But
the
I've
book.
recommended Robert Greene about 90 times.
That's true.
So
That's
go
true.
ahead.
So, I mean, I have a backup. But this. So here's what's interesting about this book, The Kingdom Life. It was recommended to me by my therapist, which automatically I'm like, okay, this is going to be good.
You're a pastor. You can't have a therapist.
That's true. Never mind. I meant a friend of mine
You
who
mean
has a
God?
therapist. Yes, that's right.
You mean your brothers in Christ?
BOC.
Or be,
Yeah.
be
Okay.
out.
So the
Will
Kingdom
you be
Life.
my Bach?
Literally the name of the book, The Kingdom Life. The interesting backstory to this is that it's a collective. So it's just a little bit different type of book where there isn't just one main author. There's a group of people that are trying to describe essentially what it means to be a Christian. They're very smart people, but they understand that they're writing to a general audience. And they actually stalled out in the effort because they were making some mistakes and there was some accountability within the group. So at any rate, the book isn't just a guy that sat down or a girl that sat down and said, all right, here's my opinion. It's a group of people thinking this out, and then the backstory of the fact that they were making mistakes and going too heavily in, as they described it, a white male direction in writing this book, and were held accountable by females and minorities, has produced an incredible book. So whenever someone says publicly, hey, we made a mistake, it took us way longer to write this book because of that mistake, and we corrected it.
It's interesting.
And here's our product.
How old are they? That's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, they're older. A lot of them are older theologian kind of
That's
people.
impressive within itself that they were taking accountability.
Yes.
They should go check out the
level.
Southern Baptist Convention, see if they can get them together.
Yeah, I don't believe they're Southern Baptist. I'm just going out on a limb there. Having grown up as one. But yeah, The Kingdom Life is a book. And I've had this book for a couple of weeks. I'm only 19% in because every page is incredibly dense.
19%. That's pretty specific.
Yeah, well, there you go. It's a little app for that. But I would highly recommend it for people who are tired of reading. Let me just finalize this recommend with this.
Okay.
People who are tired of reading random Pastor X who happens to have a big church and turned his sermon series into a book with a publisher, and it's so boring to read, and it really doesn't say anything new or interesting or applicable.
It doesn't look as good in black and white.
Should we roast people? You want to do that?
No. Don't get me
okay.
started on that. I might lose my job.
Me, Billy Ray Cyrus.
This is a very different type of book that I would recommend for the thinking Christian. The Kingdom Life.
Kingdom Life. Has Grote read it?
Kingdom Life. No, which is another stripe for me. He didn't read this first and recommend it to me.
Is there a crown on the cover?
No.
Okay,
there is no crown on the cover. Actually, I hate to end this way, but
Then
it's
I might
really
read it.
bad design.
Is there a Ford from David
It's really
Platt?
bad.
Oh.
What?
Just a circle.
Which one is? Oh.
yeah.
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 Can't read a book by its cover, gentlemen.
Yeah, not that way.
All right.
Well,
Let's stop there.
Well, it's been real fun. Bye.
yuck. Okay.